The top GOP contenders, meantime, looking to sway voters their way and, most importantly, convince them to even show up. This is the Faulkner Focus. I'm Julie Banderas in for Harris today. Thank you for joining me on a Friday. All right, let's get right into it. A new poll of likely Iowa caucus goers showing former Nikki Haley pulling ahead in the battle for second before former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie left the race. Former President Trump, meantime, standing at 54% support. Haley at 20, DeSantis at 13. Vivek Ramaswamy and Chris Christie with 6% and 2% respectively when the poll asked who voters preferred with Christie out of the race. His 2 points going right into the Haley column. A Wall Street Journal piece with the headline, Haley DeSantis food fight validates Trump's debate boycott strategy. Foes hammer each other in last-ditch bid for second place. And hammering they are. Watch.
Every time he lies, Drake University, don't turn this into a drinking game because you will be overserved by the end of the night.
We don't need another mealy-mouthed politician who just tells you what she thinks you want to hear.
Did he tell you that he banned fracking? Did he tell you that he banned offshore drilling? Because he did.
When she gets called out, she says she never said something that she did, or she'll say you're lying.
But if he's going to talk about his economy, I think what we should say is, why does Florida have the highest property insurance in the country? Why is it that it is named the American hotspot for inflation?
Nikki Haley's running for her donors' issues. I'm running for your issues and your family's issues.
The former president also firmly in their sights. Watch.
What do you say to the former president about, he says you betrayed him, that you sold him out because you promised him you would never run against him?
I will tell you, when I said that I would never run against him, we hadn't had the debacle in Afghanistan. We hadn't had inflation go through the roof. And we didn't lose the midterms by ridiculous numbers.
Donald Trump promised record deportations. He actually deported less than Barack Obama did in his first 4 years. But I think Donald Trump attacking pro-lifers the way he has, that is now going to be weaponized by the political left.
Grady Trimble out in the cold for us in Des Moines with more. Hey, Grady, you don't need to tell us it's cold there. I can tell just looking at you.
It is, Julie, and it's not the kind of weather the candidates wanted in the days leading up to these caucuses. We're under a blizzard warning right now in West Des Moines, and some of the candidates' events have been canceled or postponed. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley had to move her in-person town halls to tele-town halls. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis had one event this morning, postponed a couple, and is trying to get to a couple events this afternoon. And as you can see behind me here, Vivek Ramaswamy is on the campaign trail right now. He's out and about holding his events as usual, but because of these snowy conditions, the bus had to stay put. Now, as we look forward to caucus day, the big story is going to be those falling temperatures. They could fall to negative 14 degrees below zero on caucus day. When we asked caucus goers whether that might deter them from going, here's what they said.
I will be inside. I do not go outside in this.
It's going to hurt the caucus, that cold and stuff. I think it's going to hurt it, yes.
Die-hard Trump supporters are going to come out under any circumstance.
There might be a few people, but for the most part, I don't think that'll stop us.
Yeah, we're Iowans. We'll come out in it.
I really think it depends on how passionate they are. I will be out. No matter what the weather's doing, I will be here to caucus.
And there are some pollsters who say a lower voter turnout because of the cold weather on Monday probably helps former President Trump because his caucus goers are so loyal. But here is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' take on the cold weather and turnout.
I think it may affect turnout from some more casual voters, especially if you're more of a casual voter who's, like polling for Trump now. He's saying that he's got all the votes he needs. He doesn't need your vote.
And the chair of the Iowa GOP said earlier this week that the GOP has no contingency plans in place because of the falling temperatures. He compared the caucuses to a football game, saying snow or below zero temperatures doesn't matter. The show will go on. Julie?
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Meantime, 3 days and counting. Power Panel joins us now. We've got Gianno Caldwell, Fox News political analyst, and Leslie Marshall, Fox News contributor. Great to see you both. So,
Good to be with you.
Gianno, I just read that Wall Street Journal headline, Haley DeSantis food fight validates Trump's debate boycott strategy. I mean, that is spot on, because that strategy apparently continues to work. You know, while Nikki Haley has moved past Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, she does remain in a distant second place behind former President Trump. He's at 54%. She's at 20%. DeSantis is trailing at 13%. So that begs the question, how make or break are these caucuses, especially for DeSantis? Because if DeSantis doesn't come out with a win here, he's pretty much out of the race.
Well, I think the same could be argued for either one of them. But the truth of the matter is, this is really going to be Donald Trump's caucus. And if it's anything less than a slam dunk for him, then you'll have the ability by the other two candidates to question if he's really the front runner. Because as we know, and as my old buddy Marty Morris used to say, polls don't vote. And it's currently 17 degrees right there. So we already know out of this 1,600 caucus sites that we're going to see on Monday, there's going to be people who don't show up. And I know Donald Trump is hoping that all his people come out so he can then declare himself the winner of the whole thing, and he's the nominee. That's what he'll do if he comes out with a big splash.
Leslie, Wednesday night was epic. Watching Haley sort of wipe the floor with DeSantis when she railed him and his campaign for blowing loads of cash on his private jets while she said she flies commercial, the infighting between his campaign employees, saying that if he can't manage his campaign, how's he going to manage the White House? I mean, it went on and on. Here was the problem. DeSantis went on the defense, but he got very defensive. Then she comes out, she says she struck a nerve, which is the best way to win an argument. And then after former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie was caught on a hot mic saying Nikki Haley would get smoked, she explained why she sets herself apart from the fellas. I love it. Watch.
She's going to get smoked, and you and I both know it. She's not up to this.
I didn't know about the open mic comments, but look, I mean, I do wish Chris well. It's personal to get in a race. It's personal to get out of a race. So I know how tough that must be. But at the same time, I'm not like the fellas. Politics is not personal for me.
I mean, it's so aptly said. This shouldn't be personal. And when it gets personal, whenever you're in an argument and it gets personal, that's a sign of weakness. That did not help DeSantis, Leslie.
No, I agree. But sadly, that's what politics has become. I mean, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, whether you're male or female, and certainly the front runner for the GOP knows how to make personal attacks. Look, she certainly earned the percentage point bumps that she got from Wednesday night. You are correct. But when you are 34 percentage points in second behind the front runner, you might as well be in eighth, not in second. I would agree with Gianno that Iowa is all about Donald Trump. And even though I live in Los Angeles, where it's pretty much warmer than 17 below zero, I'm from Boston. I've lived in Buffalo and Cleveland and Chicago. I know those temperatures, but so do Iowans. And I don't think that's going to deter many of them from coming out and doing what they know is very important for their party as Republicans.
And as we know, Vivek Ramaswamy was not there. He didn't meet the 10% threshold. Chris Christie, he left the race this week with more of a blunder than a bang. But Gianno, I mean, it looks like Nikki Haley got the last word. The question is she going to be the last man standing, or in this case, the last woman standing after Iowa?
I mean, I think she's going to continue on. And one thing that I've been saying time and time again, especially after the first Republican debate, when she spoke on a very important issue for a lot of women across the country, abortion, and how Republicans need to not necessarily change values, but at least the approach to the issue and not demonize women. She's been pulling people, I think, independents. I think there's going to be some Republicans who wouldn't have given her a look before. And then certainly she's going to be out there for whatever happens after this presidential contest, whether it be a cabinet position or something else. She's going to be a name that lives on. Ron DeSantis will too, but she's definitely made a mark on this presidential Republican primary.
Yeah, and by the way, this Sunday night on the eve of Iowa caucuses, be sure to tune into some very special programming. Harris Faulkner anchoring the Faulkner Focus, Iowa in Focus. She'll talk to Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, and a panel of Iowa voters. So stay tuned to that. They're going to weigh in on who they want to see as the GOP nominee and the issues that matter most to them. Harris also breaks down the history and the workings of the state's very unique caucus system. That airs Sunday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. I got to move on to this. The Wall Street Journal editorial board laying it all out, basically calling out Dr. Anthony Fauci with this headline. Anthony Fauci fesses up. It comes after chairman of the House Select Committee on Coronavirus Pandemic, Brad Wenstrup, said that Fauci made some shocking admissions during his 2-day, 14-hour closed-door interview that happened this week. Quote, Dr. Fauci claimed that the policies and mandates he promoted may unfortunately increase vaccine hesitancy for years to come. He testified that the lab leak hypothesis, which was often suppressed, was, in fact, not a conspiracy theory. Further, the social distancing recommendations forced on Americans, quote, sort of just appeared and were likely not based on scientific data. A quick reminder of what Dr. Fauci was telling us all back in 2020.
Every aspect of that ending the COVID outbreak in 30 days has some aspect of it of physical separation, whether that's avoiding crowds, whether that's staying 6 feet away from people, whether that's doing teleworking. All of it does that. That's our most important tool.
Avoid crowded places, 6-foot distance, maintain that.
I believe, and I think there's good enough data to say, that aerosol transmission does occur. So by aerosol, make sure you know what we're talking about.
Yep.
Generally, if you have droplets that come out of a person, they generally go down within 6 feet. So if you're 6 feet distance, and you're wearing a mask, you don't worry about that.
So that's a lot of conflicting information. It's also disappointing to know that he wasn't relying on science for that, because we were all looking to him to give us the science. I do recall he at first said that masks aren't going to help you, and that obviously turned out to be an about face. So Leslie, what are we to believe?
Well, you know, there's a number of things here. When you go in for surgery, everybody in the room has a mask on. And this was before we even heard the word COVID. Mm-hmm. One of the things with COVID is we saw a record number of people dying, whether it was in Italy or South Korea. And it was very fearful, everyone, politicians and medical professionals here, to do something to stop this in its tracks, to protect the American people from the number of bodies that we saw lined up from that happening here. So it was a very fluid situation. Many times when you go to the doctor, they may be giving you recommendations based on a combination of common sense and, you know, theories, hypotheses, and scientific data. There just wasn't enough data out there. And I don't blame him for that. I know he's the poster child for blame, but I think that everyone, politicians, medical professionals together at that time were trying to do their best to protect us. I honestly do. I don't think there was any political agenda. Right. I think it was just to stop more grave sites from popping up for the American people.
Gianno, I mean, obviously the mask did prevent the spread, and he initially did say that masks are not going to protect you, which really made no sense considering all the doctors who were getting an influx of COVID patients were all wearing KN94s and more on their bodies. But it was just the delivery in it, because he made it seem matter of fact, as if he had the scientific data to back up what he was saying. But really, a lot of it was purely opinion, which really does, I believe, concern the American public as to what to believe if we ever, you know, are in the midst of another pandemic.
I think these revelations should be upsetting to just about every American. Look at how many lives, based on the information that was provided by Dr. Fauci, and then you had states and cities like Los Angeles that created policies that weren't based on science. How many people lost their jobs? How many people were banned from social media? How many people lost their family members in terms of them not wanting to be around them? Masks were never 100%. We saw that from early studies. And now we're finding out after all of this time, where all of these different things happened, that it was a bunch of lies. Like, that is so unfair to the American people. And when people justifiably, I'm talking about doctors, Senator Rand Paul himself, a doctor, had made mention that this isn't based on science. How many news networks ridiculed him and many other Americans? This was not okay, and he should be held accountable for his lies.
All right, Gianno Caldwell, thank you very much, and Leslie Marshall, great to see you both. So third-party speculation is heating up. Senator Joe Manchin in New Hampshire for 2 political events, and former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan making a move that's raising a lot of eyebrows. Plus, a massive protest outside the NAAA's annual convention Dozens of female college athletes, apparently their coaches and parents, they are fed up with biological men competing in women's sports. Tens of thousands are now even backing their demands for fairness.
The audacity for the NCAA to say they are creating
opportunity is in New Hampshire today for a couple events with voters. Now, the moderate Democrat has not ruled out a third-party bid for the White House. This morning, he had a few jabs for the president.
When he got elected, and I think people were looking for some normality, that's my best word, normality. Calm it down. Let's work together. And that truly is what I thought his intent was. He's been pushed to the far left. That's the only thing I've said. And I don't know whether it's just basically the hey, you owe me because I got you elected and this and that.
Former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, meantime, also getting some attention. He has stepped back from his leadership role in the No Labels organization. Many are wondering what the moderate Republican is up to next. Mark Meredith with more on the intrigue. This is getting interesting, Mark.
Julie, it sure is. Good morning to you. While so much of the buzz is on a likely rematch between Presidents Biden and Trump, as you mentioned, there are growing signs Americans are going to be offered a serious third-party presidential ticket, and a decision on who's going to be on the ballot should come out in about 2 months from now. Today, West Virginia Democrat Joe Manchin is in New Hampshire, looking a lot like a candidate himself. He spoke at a Politics and Eggs event in Manchester, telling the crowd he knows millions of Americans are fed up with the offerings both from the GOP and the DNC.
The people that are just telling me, I'm going to vote for the Democrat because I'm a Democrat, I'm going to vote for Republican no matter who it is, that's bullcrap. Vote for the person. Vote for the best person that should be leading this country.
A new Gallup poll out today shows more people identify as independent at 43% compared to either a Democrat or Republican. And the number of people who even see themselves as down the middle, that went up by 2 points last year. The political group No Labels is actively taking steps to secure ballot access in dozens of states. The group just getting approval to be on the registered party in Maryland. And a top strategist for the group tells us today if a unity ticket is announced, there will be an apparatus ready to compete.
One analogy that we've used sometimes is we are effectively building the launching pad. If we offer our ballot line to the unity ticket, they got to build the rocket ship to take themselves to the White House.
And while we don't know who could be on that unity ticket, this week the leader of No Labels said he was interested in potentially courting former GOP candidate Chris Christie into their operation. But a final decision, Julie, on the group's plans should come out by about mid-March. So stay tuned. Julie?
All right, Mark Meredith, thank you.
We, as women, will not continue to sit back, to sit idly by and smile as we are discriminated against on the basis of our sex.
Former star collegiate swimmer Riley Gaines taking on college sports officials outside their annual convention yesterday. She was part of a big rally labeled "We Won't Back Down." Gaines and dozens of other female athletes demanding the NCAA change its rules that allow biological men to compete against women. Senior national correspondent William Lajeunesse has more on this supercharged issue. Hey, William.
Good morning, Julie. They want single-sex competition, no guys and girls sports, no men on women's teams. And that can happen through courts, legislation, or the NCAA itself. They could ban athletes born male from competing in female sports. And that's what this campaign argues. 1, men have a competitive advantage, transgender or not. 2, they rob women of opportunities, a spot on the team, a seat on the bus, a shot to win. And finally, the humiliating experience of sharing a locker room with athletes like Will Thomas, who swam as a man before transitioning to Leah Thomas.
My teammates and I were forced to undress in the presence of Leah, a 6'4" tall biological male, fully intact with male genitalia. This did not happen once or twice, but 18 times every week.
I had to change into a skin-tight racing swimsuit in front of a man. As a swimmer, our racing suits take up to 30 minutes to get on, and I covered myself with a towel and parka while I changed in the locker room several times a day.
So right now, NCAA policy allows transgender women to compete if they suppress testosterone levels for 1 year. Then it's up to each sport to set a ceiling on testosterone. Yesterday, swimmer Riley Gaines led a rally protesting that policy.
I'm not looking for sympathy with this story. I'm looking for action. What happened at that national championships is not unique anymore. It's happening at every level, every state, every division, every sport. Women continue to lose out on opportunities.
So right now, at least 34 transgender women compete in college swimming, track, tennis, fencing, and volleyball. The NCAA defends the policy, Julie, as progressive, positive, and inclusive. Back to you.
All right, William LaJeunesse, thank you. So there's another move to stop the flood of illegal immigrants into the state. Texas is taking control of a public park along the border, even banning access to the feds. It is sure to escalate already sky-high tensions between the Lone Star State and the Biden administration. Plus, the U.S. finally with military action against Iran-backed proxies over their attacks. Some Republicans say this one move is not enough.
The administration is claiming that these long overdue strikes will do just that, but at the same time, simultaneously admitting that the Houthis are likely to retaliate, which by definitions means that deterrence is not restored.
The state using its National Guard to seize control of a public park in Eagle Pass, fencing it off and banning federal government access. Now, this move, once again, is pitting Texas against the Biden administration. The Justice Department, meantime, expected to quickly take legal action on this. Biden's DOJ has already sued Texas twice over the border, once over a law allowing police to arrest illegal immigrants, and also over the use of razor wire along the Rio Grande River. Governor Greg Abbott with this.
Joe Biden is also challenging me in the United States Supreme Court right now, Sean. Joe Biden has spent no time trying to stop illegal immigration. He's only spent time trying to stop Texas from stopping illegal immigration.
Matt Finn is in Eagle Pass, Texas, with us with more. Hey, Matt.
Hi, Julie. Behind me right now is Shelby Park, which is one of the busiest hotspots for illegal immigration anywhere in the country. Our viewers may recognize it. Our cameras have been here for 2 years now. And behind me, over my shoulder, is some of the fencing, which represents a lot right now because the state of Texas put up that fence in an unprecedented move and kicked out federal Border Patrol agents. It's a rather stunning, unprecedented move here in Texas. Texas is basically saying the Biden administration is perpetuating illegal immigration, so Texas is going to handle this property from here on out. Video appears to show federal Border Patrol processing migrants outside of the park, which is not how this normally has been happening. Typically, Border Patrol is inside the park and processes migrants in there. But Texas is blocking those agents, and senior BP sources confirmed to Fox News that Border Patrol has pulled out of the park to avoid a confrontation. Now, it's not quite clear if this unprecedented move by Texas is going to help or harm illegal migration because it appears that ultimately when migrants arrive to this park, as they are right now, Texas National Guard is still going to have to turn them over for processing to Border Patrol, essentially adding an extra step. And in another added layer, the mayor of Eagle Pass says he does not condone his city park being taken over. He got a phone call and was completely caught off guard by this move, and he is looking into his legal options.
This is not something that the city wanted, requested, asked for. He made it clear that this is the state and that they have the legal authority to do that. Of course, our legal team is looking into the actions taken by the states.
And that mayor says right now about 400 to 500 illegal migrants are still arriving to this park every day. We will be here and we'll keep you updated on how the situation unfolds, Julie.
All right, Matt Finn, thank you so much. Meantime, Republican Congressman Michael McCaul of Texas joins us now to talk about this. Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman, member of the Homeland Security Committee. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks for having me.
So, as you know, the House Homeland Security Committee will be holding its first Mayorkas impeachment hearing on Thursday. Republican lawmakers are blasting the DHS secretary for his handling of the border. First, I want your take on this potential impeachment because clearly he has dropped the ball.
No, clearly. And if you look at the founding fathers when they talked about impeachment, they talk about abuse of power, dereliction of duty. Mayorkas on day one rescinded remain in Mexico. That means instead of arresting, detaining, and removing illegal aliens, they have released them into our society by reinstituting catch and release. This has caused injurious harm to the fabric of America. We have 8 million encounters at the border with no legal status. We have over 300 on the terror watch list who have come into the United States. And we have 150,000 people, mostly young people, dead now because of poisonous fentanyls going into this country. That alone, I think, is worthy of an impeachment. And we intend to go forward with articles of impeachment and impeach him by the end of this month.
I mean, it's just a crisis one day after the next, and nothing is being done. Speaking of crises here, we're going to go overseas now. The United States, with the support of several allies, as you know, finally responding to months and months of Iran-backed Houthi sites in Yemen. The Houthis say at least 5 were killed in the attack. The White House says it was in response to the dozens of attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea, including the seizure of an oil tanker just this week. Iranian-backed militants have also targeted U.S. forces in the Middle East 130 times since just mid-October. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said this just a short time ago. Listen.
We're not looking for conflict with Iran. We're not looking to escalate, and there's no reason for it to escalate beyond what happened over the last few days by the Houthis. They are the ones that have been escalating. We're not looking for conflict with Iran. That said, we know that Iran supports the Houthis. We know that they supply them with the missiles and the drones, the same things that they've been using to attack shipping, and we have made it very clear Iran should stop that support.
Yeah, Iran has also ramped up its nuclear weapons program in spite of sanctions. Experts say Iran has enough uranium to fuel 3 atomic weapons. Senator Lindsey Graham has this to say. Listen.
When will you realize that nothing's going to change until you tell the Ayatollah, if you keep hitting us, keep going after Israel, we're coming after you. I'm not talking about invading Iran. They're a oil-rich nation. Knock out some of their refineries.
And a Houthi spokesman had this to say. They said that this will not go unanswered and unpunished. Another adding, quote, America and Britain will undoubtedly have to prepare to pay a heavy price and bear all the dire consequences of this blatant aggression. Okay, they're calling this blatant aggression after over 130 attacks. This bombardment not only came after 30 minutes after the U.S. military said that the Houthis had staged their 27th attack on shipping lanes since November 19th, firing an anti-ship ballistic missile into the Gulf of Aden. So the White House and the Pentagon repeatedly have said that they've warned of consequences. So far, there have been none. Now they're warning us. I mean, why are we behind the 8 ball on all of this?
Well, that's right. It's all about deterrence, about projecting strength, not weakness. We've been projecting weakness ever since Hamas invaded Israel. With respect to the Iran-backed militias, Hezbollah, and the Houthi rebels, in addition to Hamas. The Houthi rebels with impunity have hit commercial ships in the Red Sea, causing them to go around Africa, increasing prices over 250%. So as we talk about inflation back home, think about the price rise that we're going to see from this Middle East conflict, in addition to the energy prices as well. I do commend the administration for finally hitting back. I was with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff last night at his residence when the call came in from the White House where he approved these 60 airstrikes on the Houthi rebels. And I would say it's about time. They only understand one thing in that part of the world, and it's force and its power. And they question our resolve in the region. And we need to show them that we're serious, that we're not going to back down to their threats, and we're going to hit them back. With respect to what Lindsey Graham said, we know Iranian ships from the Red Sea conducting these operations, coordinating with the Houthi rebels. It seems to me, even though Congress has not authorized that, and my committee would authorize that use of force, that they do have self-defense Article 2 authorities to hit those Iranian vessels in the Red Sea as well. But the longer we let them go with impunity, sooner or later an American's going to get killed. And then it will escalate the tensions in the Middle East.
And prior to this strike, the terrorists in the region, and they are terrorists, even though for some ridiculous reason they're not listed as official terrorists. I can't understand why that is. But they had actually warned of possible retaliation against the U.S. military targets if the bombing went ahead, obviously showing blatant disregard for the U.S. And some military experts are saying that going after Iran-backed proxies isn't simply going to cut it, and that the U.S. needs to go after Iran. finally. What do you think about that?
Well, we don't want to escalate this, but let's be honest. There's very little distinction between the Houthi rebels and Iran. They're proxies of Iran.
Nhồi bông. Nhồi thêm bông. Tiếp tục nhồi bông. Nhồi bông vào hai phần má. Nhồi thêm một ít bông. Cắt sợi. Tiếp tục sử dụng sợi màu vàng móc phần mũi. Hai mũi xích. Hàng đầu tiên móc 6 mũi đơn. Hàng thứ hai móc 6 mũi tăng. Hàng thứ ba móc 12 mũi đơn. Cát sợi. Kết hàng. Gắn mũi. Gắn mũi vào giữa hai má. Gắn thêm mũi màu đen. Gắn hai mắt. Gắn tai. Tai thứ hai. Sử dụng sợi màu đen theo lông mày.